Senior Vice President and Chief Customer Officer, Brian Rich.
Good morning, Bart. Good morning, Andy.
Good morning. How are
Good
you?
to be with. I think this is my second time on the morning show now.
Well, we're not keeping track.
I am.
I'm keeping track. I am definitely keeping track.
Busy night. Last night, I know we had some big storms
yeah.
move through central Michigan. But I think that's every summer, and all this global warming is making storms more unpredictable.
So
and
unpredictable.
Yep.
worse.
Mm-hmm.
But you guys, you're tired of the lines coming down.
Yes. as are our customers.
Yeah.
So you hit it. I mean, we used to have when I first started with the company a storm season, but there is no storm season anymore. We're getting these types of events all the time, and I think we all have very easy memories to February when it was just catastrophic.
Right.
And those types of storms in the winter when it's 32, 33 degrees and the ice comes, and those are long restorations because they bring down wires. There's a lot of wire downs and a lot of securing trees that we have to go secure. So ultimately, it makes the case to bury power lines much more compelling. And we're announcing that we're starting a pilot, and we're going to pretty aggressively go start to bury power lines over the time horizon.
Yeah, the chatter, of course, I think from everyone after those February or the storms back to back was, why aren't the power lines buried? It's not a simple project, is it?
It's not. Now, first of all, they're right. I mean, like if you compare us to other Midwest utilities, which we tend to do, Consumers Energy has a lower amount of buried power lines. So I think that from a benchmark perspective, it's clear that we need to. But to your point, Andy, it's not a silver bullet. We have engineers that look at every single line on our system and say, what's the best thing to do to make it both reliable and resilient for futures? Clearly in urban areas, I mean, walk down Michigan Avenue, the lines are buried. In Flint and Grand Rapids, we have a lot of buried power lines. But as you start getting out into people's homes areas, there's opportunity to do more. So our target is to do about 400 miles a year.
Oh, wow.
And start to ramp up the programs. And to your point, Andy, we got to get new materials and start to. But years ago, we would have convinced ourselves that it's too expensive to do. But there's new technologies in drilling that make it much more affordable and effective.
This is a long-term approach, really.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there is, you have to weigh the cost. There certainly is a cost of putting new poles and lines up. But the cost of burying, it's a much greater cost.
It's a much greater cost, yeah. So we are, but a return where our engineers see fit. So we're excited about this, and I think customers are, when customers see lines get buried, they can equate to the fact that this is going to be better for them. We talk about reliability, which is, the wind blows and the system goes down, but resiliency is something we're thinking about a lot more as you look across the country now. Vermont's got flooding. That's your home state, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, all across the country we're seeing these types of events, and the system doesn't just have to be more reliable for what we know today, but resilient against the future, and burying power lines is clearly a great method.
Absolutely.
Yeah, some of it is really, it's unforeseen. The things like in California, the home sliding into a ravine.
Yeah. We look across the country and we think, we have it pretty good here, which I think we do as far as a lot of national weather or land disasters, for sure.
We believe that, except for those Canadian fires. But we are standing on a rock here,
true.
I think. I saw in Florida yesterday, the ocean waters are like high 90 degrees, which is
hot tub water. Yeah.
So yeah, lots changing, and we got to make our system more resilient for our customers.
This day and age, scammers all around the world is a full-time enterprise for these folks, and they're getting good. And there's new scams that you're helping protect customers from.
Yeah, and we saw something about a month ago. An entity effectively was changing, like if you search on Google, say Consumers Energy new service, they were engineering it so that they were the first return. And they would collect all of your personal information and then call consumers on your behalf. But they were charging customers money for the service. Customers thought they were working with Consumers Energy, charging customers for the service, and then of course capturing their social security number and all other types of information that you need to be able to set up an account with us. We went to the authorities. We saw that this was happening nationally, that other utilities and other companies like Comcast were experiencing this. And we've put measures into place to stop it. But the best thing we can do is make sure customers are aware that make sure you're talking to us. If you're collecting, especially if you're collecting information, we don't charge any kind of fee for that type of service. But unfortunately, customers fell victim to it.
And now I heard about AI is being used in scamming, where people are able to create voice,
Yes.
so they can make a phone call to your mom and say, Mom, I'm filling out some forms. I need your driver's license number real quick. And it sounds every bit
it's
like
spooky.
the person, and
It's really spooky,
Yeah.
especially for somebody like yourself who's a public figure and your voice has been out there. Apparently, it's even easier to engineer.
Yeah.
So I know that when I get a call from you, Bart, I'm
Yeah.
hang on.
Well, we actually use AI to make phone calls from Bart all the time here, so it's actually fun.
Well, here's the hint. I don't call people.
that makes it easier. But yeah, the best thing customers can do is just be on alert. Make sure you're talking to Consumers Energy, and if any doubt, hang up and call us.
Okay, very good. Yeah, if you're confused or you're not sure, it doesn't sound right, it's okay to hang up and
That's right.
and call
Safe and sorry.
consumers.
We were talking about electric bikes being confiscated on Mackinac Island, and we were talking to folks at On Two Wheels. They're actually selling more electric bikes than regular bikes now, as a percentage, and we're seeing more and more electric cars.
Yes.
I understand you have one.
I do have one, and I understand that if you think about the adoption curve, I may be considered myself an early adopter. I understand you may be a little bit more at the end of that
Very,
adoption
very
curve.
end of it.
I think
Yeah.
that would be a very fair statement.
But here's the thing, and this is important for, I speak to a lot of customers that say I'm not ready for it or I don't think I ever would ever want one. That's okay, because electric vehicles lower rates for all customers. I mean, think about it, the grid that we have to build is a fixed cost. And if there's more electrons being consumed on our system, it lowers prices. So whether I have an electric vehicle and you don't, both of our bills go down from Consumers Energy by just getting more throughput on our system and being able to spread our fixed cost. So it's really, that should make you a fan of electric vehicles.
I think so, that should.
I feel that the first time I'm going to
The
get
right one hasn't been made yet for you, that's all it is.
it's going to happen. I'm going to rent a car, and they're going to give me an electric car whether I want it or not,
And you'll
because
have
they're
to.
buying the rental
Yes.
cars. Companies are buying up
Yes.
electric cars.
Yeah.
And did I hear, Bart, that you are going to be going potentially for an electric vehicle ride with Garrett Rochow?
Yes,
Yes.
and there's a new F-150 Lightning.
F-150.
That is true.
I parked next to him at the office, and we both charge, and I think his truck consumes all the electrons. I'm not sure I get it. You're going to love it.
You guys are making an effort to install these EV chargers
Yep.
across the state, and that's one thing people think. Well, if I buy my vehicle, I know I'll be able to install something at home. But what about when I'm out on the roads?
Yeah, I think that's an important part. We did homes and workplace charging is really important, but this kind of range anxiety. Michigan State did a study to say where are the strategic parts in Michigan where these kind of fast chargers need to be, and we've effectively been following their lead and just incenting those chargers to get stood up. And then this week we announced something even more exciting, which is about a third of our customers live in apartments or condos, and that's a little bit more complex than somebody like me who charges in my garage in a single-family home. About how do you get that infrastructure in place? So we're starting to really incent getting these chargers deployed in what we call multi-dwelling units or apartments, condos. And that's a big unlock because the total cost of ownership for these vehicles is actually cheaper. I mean, it's interesting. My daughter is a new driver, and she and I just went for an oil change. And on the way to the oil change, she had to go get filled gas. That was a $200 trip to fill up her car with gas and to do an oil change. I don't have any of those expenses. So the more you can actually bring down the cost and put this infrastructure, all customers can participate in this if they want it.
So the concern is the person's going to be driving along and is going to go to E, and they got to find a charger, and then they
Range
go,
anxiety.
and
Range
it has to
anxiety.
be the right charger because there's different chargers for different vehicles, right?
Yes.
So, is the industry moving toward universal chargers?
Yeah, it appears that Tesla is going to emerge here. So I think you saw some pretty loud announcements with both Ford and GM that in 2024 they're going to be moving to the Tesla network. And then I think Volvo and Rivian and potentially Mercedes recently announced the same thing. So it appears that here in the US that the Tesla standard is going to be the standard, which is great because they got a head start. Their charging infrastructure is everywhere. And that thought about kind of, am I going to run out? Am I going to go to empty? One thing to remember is, so I have a charger in my house. Imagine you had a gas tank in your house. Every day I start with my tank on full. So it's when I drive to work and back, it's not a problem. When I go on a long trip, it's inserted into my trip that I know where to stop and for how long.
Yeah.
It'll pop up somewhere. You'll
Yes.
have. And how long does it take to charge?
Well, it depends. These fast chargers, you could fill up in about 25 minutes, which isn't really much different than a gas station visit, especially if you're going to go in for a pop or,
Right.
a bio break. So,
Bathroom break.
yeah. Now at home, I have what's called an overnight charger, which is what we're doing at a lot of these multi-dwelling units or apartment buildings. I don't need that type of charging. I need to be able to come home from work and have it ready in the morning, so it's a little bit slower.
And we're continuing toward clean energy. This is what is going to power these charging stations, all clean energy.
All clean energy, that's the plan. So consumers' energy is going to be net zero carbon emissions by 2040, but every day we're getting closer and closer to that. We're closing our coal plants, so we've just closed another one. We'll have them all closed by 2025. So if you have one of these vehicles, you are increasingly fueling it with non-carbon fuel, which is exciting.
I think Brian, myself, and you will go buy your car for you.
Yes.
We'll go with you. We'll do all the talking.
Actually, let's leave him at home. You and I will do
We'll
it.
get it, bring it
Yes,
back. Yeah.
Exactly. Just give us your checkbook and
That's right.
Okay, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
We'll get you a nice
As
lease
long-
deal or
As
something.
long as you do all the talking.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. What's going on in like the Southwest Phoenix, 115,
Oh,
118?
Texas, yeah. Just
What kind of
crazy.
a load is that on the power grid out there?
Yeah, I mean, I've been following Texas a little bit more, which has been a similar heat, and they definitely have had a lot of strain on their grid. Frankly, I think it's their renewables that are actually keeping them afloat right now. I mean, their solar and their wind is actually really effective. But they're making appeals to customers to curtail. I mean, they just hadn't contemplated and stress tested this type of, not just extreme heat, but if you have extreme heat for months or weeks at a time,
Right.
your house is not cooling down at night, and it becomes this compounding effect, and there's a lot of stress on that grid. So the nice thing about Michigan is because we're a peninsula state, we put our grid through these resiliency tests all the time to make sure that we can withstand the extremes of extremes, and we feel really confident about it.
El Paso, record triple digits, and it does cool down to about 89 at night. So yeah, you just don't think about that. It's, oof.
You know what I always think about is their children, like our kids, the weather in Michigan in the winter is not all that great, but in the summer when the weather's beautiful, our kids are out of school. Their kids are out of school in 115 degree heat. That doesn't
Yeah.
sound like a lot of fun.
And it's that weather at 8 in the morning.
I
It's,
know,
It's not,
yes.
it's not a.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a full day. So yeah,
we're with Michigan here.
I like it.
I'm convinced this is going to be a very attracting state.
believe
It
that.
is already, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
They say the air conditioner migrated people south, and now some of these extreme weather events may start migrating people north.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate all that you guys do, and we appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you both.
Thanks, Brian.
Always great to be here.
Brian Rich is Senior VP and Chief Customer Officer at Consumers Energy. More of the Morning Show after this.